Okay, the machine is back together. This will be the first attempt at driving it. I have drove this machine kind of before, but the old transmission definitely did not hold up. Just had to double check that those flywheel bolts were tight. Yep, we have clickage. I did put extra battery in the machine. Let's see what happens. I have to turn the fuel on. It is still running on fairly old fuel, so it might take a second. So cranker wankers, this is for you. I obviously cannot let it run long. The engine has no cooling because I like to pressure wash this engine before putting it the rest of the way back together. But there we go. We drove backwards. We drove forwards. That's all I wanted to see and make sure that it would do. We have brakes, which is good. I might have to adjust them a little wee bit, but that won't be a big deal. I reused everything off the Poulon. So I used the engine pulley, the belt. The belt was actually in fairly good condition. It had a little bit of rust locking on it where it was stuck to the pulley, but nothing major. So I used the pulley, the belt. I reused a secondary tensioner or guide that the Poulon had that this machine did not have. So that was reused, and everything in the back was also reused. This one used the one-piece guide to hold the belt in place that's actually attached to the transaxle, which is nice. I do like using those because they work out so much better instead of having to mess with those two guides at the front transaxle mounts. Sorry, transaxle transmission. Just like a lot of people say motor when they're referring to an engine. Who really cares? So anyways, we are done with this for right now. Gotta wait for the weather to get a little bit nicer so I can get the deck taken care of. It's going to get a partial repaint just to make it look a lot better. The goal is to just cover up all the yellow and make it look a little bit better. But like I said in the previous video, the Poulon decks are much better than the Craftsman decks. And they're better than the Husqvarna decks. Really, the Poulons kind of were a higher end machine, but they were kind of harder to sell in my eyes. Every time I tried to sell one, a lot of people just didn't really like them or weren't overly interested since they're not as well known. The Smurray shouldn't be too bad. Murrays are relatively well known and people do know them, so this will hopefully sell. My plan is to offer it to my neighbor down the street first, the guy actually got the tractor from originally. If you remember, this tractor came complete. It was 100% complete, had bad tires, had a bad engine. The engine was seized. The transaxle we used in the big Poulon Pro. So that's where the transaxle ended up going. And basically it was just sitting around. The whole goal of this machine was originally to put it together with just parts I had sitting around, but unfortunately it didn't fully work out that way. Some of the parts I had weren't suitable and wouldn't work for what I needed them to do, unfortunately. But parts machine definitely saved my butt on this. The reason why we did not put the parts machine back together with this engine here, it has first gen steering. That's pretty much the biggest issue with it right there. It has first generation steering. This one has second generation steering. the more desirable steering. 3rd gen's definitely not desirable. Anything with 2nd gen is desirable. So that's why that machine did not get put back together. Also, the hood was in a lot worse condition than the hood for this machine. And overall, that machine was just in a lot worse condition. But it had a lot of good parts on it, and everything I needed on it was good for this machine, except for the engine. I did try and find a machine that had an engine that I wanted to use, but that's really the only thing that did not work out. Luckily, I did receive this engine right here from the guy I got the parts tractor from, and plus another engine as well. But I was more wanting to try and get this engine here running, since this will look better in the machine. I don't like Kohlers very much. So that's the big reason why I went with this engine here instead of the Kohler. I prefer these engines over the Kohler. Not saying there's anything bad with the Kohlers. I just prefer these Briggs overhead valves a lot more. So there we go. I'm going to make a quick short of the machine driving. That will be released before this video, and this is done for now. We can put the hood back on it, leave it outside. Let's put the top cover back on it as well, and we are good. Also, one other upgrade that this one did get, it got this raise and lower. That's the one that does not use the clicky click. It uses the knob to adjust it, so you can set it to one height and leave it. That is definitely an upgrade over what this machine had. This machine had the multi-stage lowering. I believe it was 5 or 6 stages. So this thing did get a few upgrades, which is good for it. So again, I'll talk to you later. Please keep it redneck like always, and please subscribe, comment.